Wow, good morning. This is Dialogue Box on Blossom Nigeria. You are welcome to this beautiful program. We've been discussing different socio-political issues and how we can profile solutions to the moving forward and the advancement of our beautiful country, Nigeria. We know that a lot still needs to be done and a lot of things are still not in place yet, but we will not give up and we keep moving upward and forward, just like we have always said. We are always on the upward and forward motion. So sorry for starting a bit late this morning due to some logistics, but we are moving on right away. All right, this morning we'll be discussing the after effect of the COVID-19, the pandemic. Why is it that worship centers are still not open in Lagos and Ogun, particularly, and different parts of the country? But for these ones, it's been very, very obvious. The state governments are still not allowing churches and different worship centers to open. So we'll look at it critically this morning and also give the government a kind of an advice from our end. So we'd like you to get ready. You send in your contributions and your comment as we look into this. But before we move into that, let's get some news updates that are coming from different parts of our country. We have that the Mohammed Umar is now the new acting chairman of the EFCC, that's the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Umar was a former director of operations in the agency and he has taken charge of the agency for the period. Then in the education sector, the Minister of Education has disclosed again that schools will not be reopening for now. That's like making a turnaround contrary to the information they gave earlier that schools were to reopen. That's for the GSS 3 and the SS3 students, but he is saying that students will not even be participating in this year's WAEC exams. That's for the SS3 students, and he appealed to different state governments to do the same. Then the federal and Lagos state governments have announced a traffic management plan for the partial closure of the Third Mainland Bridge that will last for about, that's the repairs of the Third Mainland Bridge that will last for about 6 months. So there's now a plan for effective traffic management. So you can get to the sites of the Lagos State for more information on that. It will be lasting from July 24th to January 24th, 2021. So more details are already unfolding as regards how effective traffic management will be going on while the repairs are also going on simultaneously. Then an explosion at the Benin River Valves. The Benin River Valve Station rocked the NNPC facility, leaving about 7 people dead. So investigations are going on to the remote and the immediate causes of that explosion. So we need more facts to know exactly what happened that such an explosion will take about 7 lives in the Benin River Valve Station of the NNPC. Then a good one coming from Vincent Kolo, a Nigerian artist who won the prize of $50,000 from the Nefertiti African Prize for Creativity. It was presented by the former President Olusegun Obasanjo at the virtual ceremony that held on Tuesday to mark the inaugural ceremony of the African Boma Festival. That's like a literary festival. So this guy has won a very beautiful prize of $50,000 for his work in the arts sector. Then the Nigerian Institute of Architects, NIA, has built a one-room modernized house and donated it to Madam Tumbore Pondi, a 95-year-old woman in Amasoma community in Bayelsa State. So this woman has been living virtually without accommodation for a while now. So the Nigerian Institute of Architects decided to build a modernized one-room apartment for her, and we give a big thumbs up to the NIA for this beautiful initiative. The newly appointed Managing Director of the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority, NEPZA, that's Professor Adesoji Adesuba, that we congratulated last week, has already started on a very sound footing warning officials of the agency against violations of financial regulations. So coming from Professor Adesoji, we also will like that the words in talking tough, let's use that, talking tough should also go with the right actions that will help to position the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority, NEPZA, for more effective work in that sector, so that Nigeria can also do more, earn more, and have a way of exporting even much more than importation that we are currently experiencing. Then moving on to our topic for today, we said we're going to talk about how, as though the country has lifted the lockdown to a large extent, but in Lagos and Ogun states, worship centers are still closed, and it's like a lockdown of worship centers. So the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has kicked against this continued closure of churches in parts of Nigeria, especially in Lagos and Ogun states. So despite the relaxation of the lockdown by the federal government, Samson Ayokunle, the CAN president, said the continued closure of places of worship is no longer acceptable and reasonably justified. So the major question that has not been answered is why the continued lockdown of worship centers when other public places have opened to a large extent. So these and more we are looking at in today's edition of Dialogue Box. So more background details on this. The CAN, in a statement issued by Adebayo Oladeji, that's the spokesman for the Christian Association of Nigeria, has wondered why these states have continued to lock down churches while reopening markets and other public places. So he has asked that what sin have the places of worship committed? Then he said, with the sudden emergence of the coronavirus pandemic, the leadership of the Christian Association of Nigeria at all levels across the nation had earlier agreed with the government on the need to close down the places of worship, economy, schools, and every other facet of life. It says, but with the opening of the economy, especially for the markets, both organized and unorganized markets, along with the reopening of the airports and the plans to reopen schools, the closure of churches anywhere in the country is no longer tenable and acceptable. So the CAN has eventually asked some very major questions that we would like to consider this morning. So one of the questions is, in what ways are the opened and roadside markets more organized than the church which warranted their opening? I take that again. In what way or what ways are the opened and roadside markets more organized than the church which warranted their opening? Then another question is it not the church members of the places of worship that go to the markets and other sectors that are opened? In other words, is it not the same people that are supposed to attend church that are now going to the markets and other public places? Then another question is, why are they allowed to go to the markets and they disallowed churches from opening? Then the last question here is it because the marketers cannot contract the virus? That's, can't marketers and those who are doing shopping contract the virus in the markets and in the airports? So is it in the church they are supposed to contract the virus? So it goes on and says, they conclude by saying that it is the opinion of the Christian Association of Nigeria that while the government and other relevant stakeholders are working hard to get a cure for COVID-19 pandemic, the church too has a role to play. In other words, the church is supposed to be a solution center. So Ayokunle said that as much as CAN believes that COVID-19 deserves attention, states that have continued to lock down churches should not turn deaf ears to this quest, but allow worship centers to return to their places of worship. So whatever this is, for every one of us, we are looking at this critically. Why should the places of worship still be locked when almost every public place is already open? Even the parks are open. The only thing the Lagos state government said was that park will not allow beyond a certain number of people, but the parks are open. The motor parks are open. The markets are open. The banks, you can name it, almost everywhere. So why should the churches still be locked down? So we'd like you to send in your comments, your opinion, and your suggestions, and what you think the state government should do with immediate effect to lift this ban on churches and other worship centers reopening, including the mosque and every other place. But in Ogun State, movement is on from Monday till Friday. Their own lockdown is on Saturday and Sunday. So we are wondering why. So these are the things we'd like to quickly look at this morning. Send us your thoughts and your opinion on this. So we'll have that. Then we still have some comments here. Joy Chinedu Samuel, wow, Blossom Nigeria, we are here again. Thank you so much. Nice to be here. Then she said something about the Third Mainland Bridge. She said, really, Third Mainland Bridge to be closed for 6 months? Why? Where are... Just a second. He said, why or where are they heading to? So is there any alternative? So whatever this is, she is asking that if they are to close the Third Mainland Bridge for 6 months, other alternatives that are supposed to be there. So what are they as an alternative routes that should also help to decongest the state from more lockdown from traffic? So that's on one side. We'll still get to that. But for today, we are giving proper attention to the worship centers that are still locked. Why should they be locked? That's a question other analysts and even the CAN, we thank God that they finally taken up this issue and they are asking these questions that why should the states of Ogun and Lagos State still be locking down worship centers when the federal government has lifted the ban and there is practically no lockdown anywhere except for maybe some areas like the schools we talked about, where even though the government had initially said schools should open, but maybe they are considering the fact that they have to do some exercises, some cleaning up exercises, fumigation exercises. So they're asking the students to hold on. But for the worship centers, there is practically no reason, because these are the same people that go to the markets. These are the same people that go to different public places. And come to think of it, they are not going to be in church for the whole day. Most church services would last maybe at most about 3 hours and they are done. So if that is the case, why should they be asked to stay at home when other public places are open? So we'd like you to call us on our phone numbers 090-5252-5107. I'll take it again, 090-5252-5107. So call us, our numbers are open, and let's hear your opinion on this. Why should worship centers be locked down, and what counsel do you have for the government right now? What should they do? If you think they should open the worship centers, should there be special terms and conditions like social distancing in the church? In the markets, are we observing social distancing? And in other public places, who and who is observing such? So most of those terms and conditions are really not practical, because a lot of them is like we will say that who is deceiving who. When you go to the market, everybody is practically all out there trying to get one thing or the other. Body contacts are there, different things you can think about. So why should the church, maybe the Christian Association this time around, we have to look into this, because when they play along with the government and act as regulators and also give themselves to this unusual monitoring of churches to the point of even wanting to threaten some churches during services that, oh, you are not observing social distancing, so because of that, this service or this church should lock down. So, but now we think the Christian Association of Nigeria is beginning to realize that playing along with the government is really not helping. So it's better to stand out and stand out well. So they are now asking that why should worship centers still be locked when every public place is practically open? So what do you think about this? And let's get your opinion right now. The numbers are on the screen. Everywhere you are, you can call from there. You can send us your comment and you can send us your opinion from there. A very, very very major topic we have to look at, because we believe that within this month of July, there should actually be a turnaround on that directive. Everything should be done to ensure that that directive is practically, there should be a reversal. Because if Lagos State and Ogun State are the major states that are still keeping this down, then that means there's an issue. And most of these states are even being governed by Christian governors. Feedback reaching us says that the governor of Lagos State is a Christian, and the governor of Ogun State is also a Christian. So why should they give room to such? So let's take this call right now. A call is coming in. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Good morning and welcome to Dialogue Box on Blossom Nigeria. Good morning, welcome.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good morning and welcome. Good morning and welcome. Can you hear me? Okay, all right. Maybe you call us back. We lost that call. Then we have a comment here from Joy Chinedu somewhere that said, or she says, I understand why a state opens up from Monday to Friday and decides I think she's trying to say, I don't understand why a state opens up from Monday to Friday and decides to close a whole state from Saturday to Sunday. So while she's also trying to understand that, she is saying that, are they saying coronavirus goes to bed from Monday to Friday? Okay, let's take this call again. Sorry for that. Hello?
Hello, good morning, Blossom Nigeria.
Good morning. Who is calling?
This is Grace Mercy calling from Yaba.
Wow, Grace Mercy. Nice to hear your voice. You've always been giving us wonderful comments. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, ma'am. I'm calling especially this morning because they are talking on an issue that is I have been agitating for a while now.
Okay.
It's unfair that the federal government and the state government, the state government, has opened up almost everywhere, opened up airports, opened up restaurants, opened up general services. People go out, people do their normal activities, and then the church is still locked. Is coronavirus in the church? That's the question I've been asking. I've not gotten anybody to give me the answer. Is it inside the church that the coronavirus is living? Why would they lock down the church for this long and then allow people to continue their normal activities? It's not fair. Personally, for me, I've been thinking of starting a Twitter trend to get the Lagos State government to at least listen to us and open up the church, because it's not rational anymore. It's not logical.
Yeah.
If the numbers are increasing, you can lock down the whole state. It's understandable. Let everybody go to their houses. Not that everybody can. I work in Oyibo, and then you need to see the way people walk around, hitting themselves, holding themselves. There's no social distancing, anything. Yes, they will not allow us to go to church. It's not fair. It's not logical. It's not rational at all. So
okay.
I don't know. I just called to clear out my mind, and I have to say that for me, the way forward for me is that I'm going to mobilize some of my friends in Lagos to start the Twitter trend, tagging the Lagos government.
The Twitter. All right, thank you so much, Mercy. But the Twitter trend you are talking about is also something that deserves a lot of attention to get the state government's attention in that sense. So, but what we are asking now is that you are indirectly saying that the state government should go ahead and open the worship centers. Is that not it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So
that's my point.
That's your point.
There's no point keeping it locked. Again.
All right.
There's no point.
Okay, all right.
People are already hitting themselves everywhere else.
They are hitting themselves everywhere else. So the church.
They meet themselves everywhere. So.
All right. Thank you so much, Mercy, for calling. So
they will do it. When they said maintain social distancing, when churches are prone to listen to instructions, they would maintain social distancing. They would provide water and everything.
All right.
They need every precaution would be provided. I can say that for churches, any church, because churches are prone to obey instructions.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mercy.
If they don't want to go to church, they should stay at home. And then they should allow us that want to go to church to go to church.
Yes, thank you so much, Mercy. You have made some very beautiful points there, and we know that if we give you all the time, you are ready to keep talking and giving them the right directives right now. Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate you. All right.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Everyone has a very, very, a major stake in this, because just like she said, everywhere else people are hitting themselves. So is it in the church that they are to transmit coronavirus? And whatever it is, there's no need for the churches to be closed, because it's like a form of a deception, really. All right, we have another call. It's from, okay, another call right now. Hello. 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 Good morning, sir. You are welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Who is on the line?
Okay, my name is Chinedu. I'm calling from Lagos.
Okay, yeah.
Nigeria.
Yes, you are welcome to Dialogue Box.
All right.
All right.
All right. I called to contribute to the ongoing discussion on Facebook
Okay.
concerning the reopening of churches.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't. The reasoning, the argument behind locking down the churches for this too long a period is unreasonable.
Okay.
All the states in Nigeria, when there was total lockdown, the whole country was shut down. The churches and every other relevant institution in Nigeria was shut down.
Yeah.
And when the presidency declared reopening of the economy, reopening of the state institutions and everything, Lagos State, Ogun State, giving reasons to be the epicenter of this pandemic,
Yeah.
had continued to lock down the churches while opening every other institution
Yes.
and arm of the government.
Yeah.
And the Christians, I'm speaking from the Christian perspective,
Okay.
the Christians have enough reason, or both Christians and the Muslims have enough reasons to believe that it is no longer a reason of the pandemic or trying to curtail the spread of this disease.
Okay.
Fine, if the disease actually exists, which a lot of people have come up with a lot of conspiracies here
Yeah.
and there, but that's not the point here now. If the disease actually exists, we have to look into the science of the spread.
Yeah.
People who have the disease, some of them will come to church.
Mm-hmm.
The church is not where the disease is. It's not
spread.
the epicenter of the disease.
Yeah.
It's not where the pandemic or the coronavirus is locked up in.
Mm-hmm.
So why restrict people for this long, denying them of their rights, their civic rights, their constitutional rights of worship for such a long period of time? It doesn't make sense for you to see that the markets are still open. People congregate in different areas, in offices where there is no government structured monitoring for social distancing or the use of face masks or the precautions.
Okay.
All these things are not being put in place in the outside world.
Okay, sir.
Then why?
I wanted to ask that with this point you are making, what will you say to the Christian Association of Nigeria that has also been acting as a regulatory body in even helping to lock down some churches who they say are not keeping with some of the measures given by the government, maybe like social distancing and some other requirements that they gave, though the CAN is trying to tell the government to open the churches right now, but they've been very, very strategic in helping to monitor the churches to that effect.
Everything here has to be fair.
Okay.
You see, government is an institution that we believe is in place there through the hand of God. God put government in place so that the society can have leadership.
Okay.
Everything that is done to any other relevant institution in the country can fairly also be dealt with the church.
Okay.
If the church is having a discriminatory kind of treatment, okay, at this point in time, it calls for an alarm. You see, it calls for an alarm. It calls for a serious suspicion. There is something beyond what the government is telling us. There is something, manipulating the government in still keeping the churches.
Okay.
Fine, the CAN has been, negotiating with the government on conditions for the releasing of the lockdown for churches to begin to have their services. Okay, but fine. Is CAN actually representing us? Is CAN actually representing the churches in Nigeria, the overall interest of the churches in Nigeria?
Okay.
Are they violating the common rights of people to worship? Are their laws? These are things that the learned friends of ours should look into. Are there laws that say that the churches should be locked down when there is a pandemic, while people are allowed to live their normal lives outside?
Okay. All right.
In the outside world, this is where the spread is. And finally, the church is a spiritual place of worship.
Yeah.
As a building, is a place of worship. And that is where the truth of God, the church plays a very strong role in the society.
Yeah.
The church has the anointing of God's Spirit. The church plays a role in control of crime,
yeah.
in repelling of the force of darkness, and in helping the economy to grow. And this reason, the government should realize this and give the church a role and allow them to play their role in fighting of the pandemic.
Okay.
I understand that some ministers, particularly from some churches in Lagos, have requested to even go to the isolation centers to pray, exercise their faith, and cast out that demon that is ravaging the economy and killing people in the country. And still they refuse. They refuse. There is no research centers where we are researching to find out whether we can get a vaccine, whether locally made or maybe one ratified by WHO. Exactly. There is no such research center going on. There is nothing that I can't even find or see what they are using to measure that this pandemic has caused a lot of harm in the society. There is nothing. When they hear that the Western world they are easing the lockdown, we just come here and copy and do. There is nothing rational that the government is doing, and the figures they are giving us, we are not very sure of that. The death rate in the country is not increasing. Every day we are hearing that the number of infected people is increasing. The number of people dying overall, even when there was no pandemic, is not increasing. It's still the same. And the church has a role. My advice for government is the church has a role. The church is coming to work with the government. Churches beginning to worship will increase, will mount pressure on this pandemic and disease. And their prayers will help the government even get direction, will help the government even to grow the economy, and also fight this disease and give it a final blow.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ihanacho. Thank you so much for that. That was really, in fact, you have ministered the message of the day to both the government, the private sector, even the Christian Association of Nigeria. We appreciate that. All right, so we will just take some comments from here, and as we do this, if you still would like to call, you can go ahead and do that, a quick one before we round off. So Joy Chinedu Samuel was saying that I understand why state, I don't understand why state will keep their close from Monday to Friday. Are they saying coronavirus goes to bed from Monday to Friday and wakes up on Saturday and Sunday? The state government should be checked. Something should be wrong somewhere. That's just like what Chinedu said. Then some other numbers here, comment here. Then she's also saying, I thought the Lagos state governor is a born-again Christian. What are his interests? The Lagos state governor should also be checked. I'm really amazed at his action. If the federal government says worship centers should be opened, why is he still looking down on the churches? Is he antichrist? So these are some of the comments that are coming in this morning. But the thoughts that we have all been able to communicate and to pour out, even from the phone calls, is that the state governments of Lagos and Ogun states, particularly, and even in other parts of the country that may be having similar challenges, should do everything possible to reverse on this directive, because it doesn't add up when almost every public center is open and only the churches and the other worship centers are closed. So for talking from the Christian point of view, the church angle, every day is key. But we know that, just like what Chinedu said, when you go to church, it's a place of spiritual healing, restoration. It can even curtail crime, help in maintaining an orderly society. So the church has a lot to do beyond just being a place where people gather. It's not just a normal gathering. A lot is done. So it's not even a place where people should have such a maybe mindset that they will contract a disease called coronavirus. No, but rather a lot of them go with the mindset of being healed. That when they hear the word of God, they can be healed, they can be restored, they can be strengthened. And like we have been saying, no need to spread any pandemic that will increase fear, because we call it a fear pandemic, but rather people should spread hope. And one of the best places to spread hope is in the church, the house of God. So all that we are saying this morning is that no matter what is happening out there, the state government should do a quick walk, look into this matter again, and like we said, within this month, work towards reopening the churches and other worship centers. There's no need to keep them closed when every other public place is open. So then for that, we also would like to commend the Christian Association. At least they've been able to sit up to say, okay, let's do this, and ask the government to do the right thing. We'll ask them to continue in this trend. They shouldn't compromise, and they shouldn't start negotiating some funny terms and conditions that may not be very practical. Because in most public places, the law of social distancing is only when you see maybe some government officials who are taking photographs or newspapers, you find them doing social distancing. But when you go out there, you discover that nobody is even observing social distancing in that sense. So we shouldn't deceive ourselves. Let's give ourselves the right mindset that things are getting better for our nation. And just like the last caller said, the official figures may be increasing, but we know that this is a pandemic, a trend that actually has an expiry date and is an expiry period, but we all must work together. And one of the ways to achieve that is to see to it that worship centers are open again. So Lagos State and Ogun State, take note, worship centers should be open. Thank you so much for staying with us. Then as we wrap up, let's remind you that tomorrow is Let's Talk Presidency. Everywhere you are, you can resound it again. Let's Talk Presidency. So tomorrow we'll be considering individuals we think can be considered for the presidential election in 2023. You can send in your nominations. Who do you think? It doesn't have to be a mind-boggling politician to that effect, but what we want to see are individuals who have the capable qualities. They have what it takes to be able to take this nation to the next level. So let's discuss presidency tomorrow. Thank you so much for being with us for this period. We appreciate you. And I'm Blossom. I believe in the Nigerian dream.